Good morning. I want to apologize for our late start, but we had to take care of the people's business prior to the start of council. Members will take their seat. We have established a quorum. To give our invocation this morning, the chair recognizes the Reverend Roger C. BROADLEY of the Church of St. Luke and EPIPHANY. He is here today as the guest of Councilman SQUILLA. I would ask all guests, visitors, and members to please rise.
I want to thank the council for the honor of giving the invocation today, and especially to Councilman SQUILLA for the specific invitation. And also, I consider this part of the celebration of the completion of my 40th year, soon to be retired, ministry at St. Luke and the Epiphany as an Episcopal priest and the rector there. St. Luke and the Epiphany is on 13th Street between Spruce and Pine, so right in this neighborhood. And I want to thank friends and family from the congregation for being here with me today. I bracket my brief prayer with a couple lines from Henry Fosdick. Many of you know, great progressive voice for urban economic and racial justice in the 20th century, and his voice still rings clear to me today. Let us pray. God of grace and God of glory, on your people pour your power. Visit this our city, Philadelphia. Renew the ties of mutual regard which form our civic life. Send us honest and able leaders and bless the work of this city council. Enable us to eliminate poverty, prejudice, environmental degradation, and all forms of violence, that peace may prevail with righteousness and justice with order. That people from different cultures and with differing talents may find with one another the fulfillment of their humanity here. Grant us wisdom, grant us courage for the living of this hour, that your dream for all people may become real in our time. Amen.
Before we do the council at ease, the chair recognizes Councilman SQUILLA.
Thank you, Council President. I'd just like to say on this special day, as the Reverend retires, we'd like to present from the Council City of Philadelphia is pleased and proud to recognize and honor Reverend Roger BROADLEY on the occasion of his retirement as the rector of Church of St. Luke's in the Epiphany in the city of Philadelphia. Whereas under the Reverend Roger leadership, the church response to the AIDS crisis was to provide meeting and startup offices space for AIDS service organizations such as ACT UP, Action AIDS, AIDS Laws Project, and the Philadelphia Fight. In 1989, the Church of St. Luke and the Epiphany opened to St. Luke's Hospitality Center, one of the earliest multifaceted support structures for people living with HIV/AIDS. Father has conducted over 200 funerals for those who have died of AIDS related to illness during the height of this crisis in the 1980s, and so much more. Whereas, therefore, by virtue of this citation, the City of Philadelphia is hereby recognized and honor the Reverend Roger C. BROADLEY as he retires as rector of the Church of St. Luke's and the Epiphany in the City of Philadelphia. We, this council, extend a sincere respect and admiration of this legislative body. Congratulations.
Council Biddies. Thank you very much. And again, thank you so much for your spiritual guidance. Our next order of business is the approval of the journal of the meeting Thursday, November 14th, 2019, and the chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, November 14th, 2019 be approved.
Thank you. It's been moved and probably second that the journal of the meeting of Thursday, November 14th, 2019 stand approved. All in favor will indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and the journal is approved. At this time, our next order of business is request for leave of absence, and the chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the majority, a leave of absence is requested for Councilmember Green.
Thank you. Leave shall be granted. And the chair now recognizes Councilman O.
Thank you very much, Council President. On behalf of the minority, there's a request for leave of absence from Councilmember Brian O'Neill.
Chair thanks the gentleman. Leave shall be granted.
Thank you.
At this time, I would like to dispense with the regular order of business, and I would like to welcome and thank everyone who has come down to witness their government in action. We genuinely hope that you enjoyed today's session. We hope that it is also a knowledgeable one. So again, thank you so much for coming down today. At this time, the chair will recognize Councilwoman Reynolds Brown and Councilwoman Kiona Sanchez, who will present a resolution recognizing Independence Blue Cross Foundation and Lorina Marshall Blake. With Lorina Marshall Blake and those accompanying her, please join the council members at the podium. And joining the council members, we have Councilwoman Blondell Reynolds Brown, Councilwoman Blackwell, Councilman Jones, Councilwoman Parker, and Councilman Dom.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning.
Welcome.
It's rare that in this world of government and more precisely electoral politics that you meet younger women and then you look to partner around certain efforts, and that collegial effort grows into a professional relationship, which grows into a friendship. That is symbolic of the relationship I share with the woman we are about to salute this morning. Our first effort, believe it or not, was a few decades ago when three of us, Melita Jordan, Lorina Marshall Blake, and myself, did our first effort for the former Congressman Bill Gray. Who knew that 30 years later we'd be able to salute all of the work you've been doing? Yes. Salute all of the important work you've been doing there at the Independence Blue Cross. And the record should always reflect when we have women in positions of leadership and responsibility. A leader, because we know that leaders are like eagles. They don't flock. You have to find them one at a time. Thus is the case of the woman we're saluting this morning.
Thank you, Councilwoman. I would be remiss not to recognize the value, importance, camaraderie that the Dr. Reverend Lorina Marshall Blake has offered to many women, particularly women of color, and so we really, really want to salute and celebrate you. Recognizing the extraordinary contributions of Independence Blue Cross Foundation, they're important too.
Yes, very.
And the president, Lorina Marshall Blake. Whereas the Independence Blue Cross Foundation was founded in 2011 as a private charitable corporate foundation with a mission to lead sustainable solutions that improve the health and well-being of the community. And
Whereas the foundation expands upon the more than 80-year commitment of Independence Blue Cross to improve the health and well-being of our neighbors in southeastern Pennsylvania. And
whereas the foundation focuses on access to care, advancing the healthcare workforce, and addressing national health issues. And
whereas since 2011, the foundation has awarded more than $40 million in grants to community-based nonprofit organizations, privately funded health centers, and accredited nursing programs serving more than 300,000 residents in southeastern Pennsylvania. And
whereas the foundation is committed to being a thoughtful leader addressing the greatest challenges facing our healthcare system, producing award-winning publications to highlight successful strategies for improving community health, and commissioning research to help inform policies and practices related to community health. And
the good doctor manages to teach Sunday school. Whereas the foundation works with all stakeholders across sectors to address the needs of our community. And whereas President Lorraine Marshall Blake has contributed significantly to the foundation's success and overall health of Philadelphia and its community, while overseeing the grant-making work for the $90 million foundation. Marshall Blake steered the foundation to be a collaborator, innovator, convener of diverse organizations, and through leadership in addressing emerging health needs in the southeastern Pennsylvania. And
whereas the President, Lorina Marshall Blake, has invested in continuing her legacy of philanthropy and social impact by offering mentorship both on a personal level and a professional level to future leaders in healthcare reform and serving this community in a variety of capacities, including but not limited to, she is an associate minister of her church, serves on 25 nonprofit boards and committees, lucky for them, and has been recognized for her leadership and community service by numerous organizations. Now, therefore,
resolved by the Council of Philadelphia that we hereby celebrate and acknowledge the extraordinary contributions of the Independence Blue Cross Foundation under the leadership of the esteemed President, Lorina Marshall Blake. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. The chair recognizes Lorina Marshall Blake. Word remarks.
Thank you.
How are you?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. President, and all other members of council. First, I want to thank Councilwoman Sanchez and Councilwoman Reynolds Brown for introducing this resolution. It is indeed my honor and my delight to accept this on behalf of the Independence Blue Cross Foundation. And again, on behalf of my staff, I say you believe 100% in yourself, but 200% in the people that you're asking to follow you. So I stand here because of those who stand behind me. So I want to salute them today. It's not all about me. Again, a special thank you, as I said, to all members of council. Again, today I am eternally grateful for the important work you do for our city every single day. And I get excited because I actually started here long, long ago, but we're not going to say how long ago. But I said many of us have friendships and relationships that go back 25, 30 years. Again, as has been said, since the foundation was established in 2011, our mission has been to lead sustainable solutions, solutions that will last, that will improve the health and well-being of our community. And I believe the only way we can fulfill this mission is through partnership and collaboration, one of our guiding principles. Again, as has been stated, we have awarded nearly $40 million to more than 200 partners, supporting 300,000 residents in southeastern PA. And all of this work is made possible through a shared mission with our community partners. Again, our partners are important to us. We don't tell them what to do, they inform us. Again, we are a convener of different organizations. who are positively impacting communities where we live, work, and play. We believe in leveraging cross-sector collaboration to address the greatest health challenges facing our community. And hopefully many of you know about our Someone You Know campaign, which is dealing directly with the opioid challenge. And we look forward to continuing old partnerships and creating new ones to improve the health and well-being of our community. Again, many thanks for this honor, and as I stand here, I was thinking of a song I'm not going to sing that was called I Will Always Serve, and the word from Jermaine Dolly, it says, I may have fame to my name, I may have everything that life could bring and still remain the same. I may have the house, the cars, the jewels, and all it might become a song, but I will always serve. Thank you again for this honor.
Councilman at ease. Thank you and congratulations. At this time, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell, who presented a resolution to Ken Woodson. With Mr. Woodson and those accompanying him, please join the Councilwoman at the podium. And joining the Councilwoman, we have Councilwoman Parker, Councilwoman Reynolds Brown, Councilman Greenlee, Councilman SQUILLA, and Councilman Dom.
Okay. Where did she go?
Yes.
Then ask Kenyatta to come if Heenan's not here. Thank you, everyone. This is an extreme honor, and one of the main reasons is that I never thought we'd be able to get it done. I mean, Ken Woodson said, no, no, no. It took him forever to tell us he was retiring, and then he didn't want to be on it. No, don't worry about it. No, thank you. No, no, no. So it took us a long, and it was a hard battle to get him here, and I want to thank all my colleagues and thank all of his guests. Thank the head of the zoo for being here, and thank him. You know, he's also a minister, but he's always been wonderful. The zoo is in my district. He's been wonderful, kind. Anyone who has had any relationship, any dealing with him, know that he's a fine person, upstanding character, who cares about our city, its youth, its schools, and all of us. Resolution recognizing and honoring Kenneth Woodson on his years of service to the Philadelphia Zoo and congratulating him on his retirement.
All kind of good people are retiring around now. Whereas Kenneth Woodson has been employed by the Philadelphia Zoo since 2004 as the Vice President of Community and Government Affairs. In his current role, Reverend Woodson works with the Zoo President and CEO to develop and maintain relations with community and regional civic organizations and government officials. And
whereas Kenneth Woodson has a bachelor's degree in economics from Boston University, a master's degree in city planning from the University of Pennsylvania, and a master's degree in theological studies from Palmer Theological Seminary, while preparing him for his role.
Whereas Mr. Woodson is an active member of the community and sits on several civic and business organizations, including the Association of Zoos and Aquariums National Government Affairs Committee, the East Parkside Historic District Coalition, the Mayor's Commission on African and Caribbean Immigrant Affairs, and the University of Pennsylvania Netter Center for Community Partnerships. He's also chair of the West Philadelphia Community Trust Board, and
I too would like to take a moment and also acknowledge Mr. Woodson for his dedication and commitment to our communities, and most importantly, on supporting our youth and giving them the opportunity to come and visit the Philadelphia Zoo. Whereas additionally in 2014, Mayor Nutter appointed Reverend Woodson, Chair of the Department of License and Inspections Review Board, and
whereas Mr. Woodson is the recipient of numerous awards, including President Obama's 2013 Volunteer Service Award, Distinguished Service Award from the Netter Center for Community Partnerships at the University of Pennsylvania, the Service Award as Chair of the Government Affairs Committee from the Association of Zoos and Aquariums, the Echoes of Africa Spirit Award, and the Certificate of Appreciation for Distinguished Service to the East Parkside Mantua community from the United States Attorney, Eastern District of Pennsylvania.
Now therefore be it resolved that the Council of the City of Philadelphia hereby recognizes and honors Kenneth Woodson on his years of service to the Philadelphia Zoo and congratulates him on his retirement.
Further resolved that an engrossed copy of this resolution be presented to Kenneth Woodson as a sincere expression of the Council of the City of Philadelphia's gratitude, admiration, and recognition, and is certainly signed by each and every member of council. Thank you, Mr. President.
And the chair recognizes Mr. Woodson for remarks.
Good afternoon, everyone. First, giving honor to God, from whom all blessings flow, and to our council president, President Clark, and to use a well-spoken term, West is best. So I want to acknowledge the 3rd District Council person, Janie Blackwell. I've never met a council or elected person who was more passionate and committed to the well-being of those without resources and means. To my own 4th District Council person, Curtis Jones Jr., and to every member of council here assembled. This is an auspicious occasion not because of what I've done. I've indeed done a few things, but not on my own power. I've done things with the help of many, many, many others. Many of them are standing with me today, including the pastor of Mount Carmel Baptist Church, my wife. I should have mentioned her name first. She and I have been together for a very long time, but she's been my partner in everything that I've done.
smart man.
She is my staunch supporter and defender, and also the one who pulls me aside when most of you don't see it and makes sure that I don't make the same mistake twice. So that's an important thing to note. But more than that, I'm also the beneficiary of God's grace. Nothing that I've done in all the time that I've served, even on my best days, has been because I'm such a smart individual or I know everything that's going to happen or how it should be done. I've had some dark moments. I've had some challenging times. I've made some huge mistakes. But God's grace has always been present. Because just as you've been called to do this work of the people. You've been called to serve the best interests of the citizens of Philadelphia. But God called me to a different work, a work that requires nonetheless that I serve the needs of others, those who cannot independently make decisions to live their best lives. And I really believe that, as is stated in Scripture, and we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. And I responded to the call. And therefore today I'm not retiring, I'm just moving on to a new level of calling. So I'll be spending more work doing things at Mount Carmel Baptist Church. And I will be doing more things traveling with my wife. But most of all, I will do everything that I can to respond to the call of God. Have a blessed day.
Thank you, Councilman Biddies. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, and congratulations again to Mr. Woodson and Ms. Blake. Our next order of business is our communications, and the chair requests that the Sergeant of Arms delivers the messages from the Chief Clerk, from the Mayor to the Chief Clerk. Mr. Decker, will you please read those messages?
To the President and members of the Council of the City of Philadelphia, pursuant to Sections 4604 and 2307 of the Home Rule Charter, I am today transmitting to the Council the recommendation of the City Planning Commission on the following bills and amendments. Bill number 190452, 190783, 190784, 190801, 190811, 190825, 190827, 190830, 190851, 190853, amendments to 190854, amendments to 190855, 190859, 190866, 190891, 190894, 190898, 190902, and 190916. And I am submitting herewith for the consideration of your honorable body a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to enter into a lease agreement with HACE for use by HACE of certain properties in the 7th Councilmanic District, and a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 2760 North Ringgold Street located in the 4th Councilmanic District, and a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of certain properties located in the 7th Councilmanic District, and a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 3848 Mellon Street located in the 3rd Councilmanic District, and a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to dispose of certain properties located in the 2nd Councilmanic District, which will be transferred by the city to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority by conveyance of such properties to the Philadelphia Land Bank, and a resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to dispose of certain properties located in the 3rd Councilmanic District, which will be transferred by the city to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority by conveyance of such properties to the Philadelphia Land Bank, and an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to convey to the Philadelphia Authority for Industrial Development a parcel of land located at 2401 Chestnut Street for further conveyance, and an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to enter into an amendment to a lease agreement with St. Agnes MOB for use by the city of all or a portion of the premises located at 1930 South Broad Street, all under certain terms and conditions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. And our next order of business will be the introduction of bills and resolutions. And the chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Good morning, Mr. President. This morning I offer one privilege resolution and one non-privilege resolution, of which I wish to be recognized after the title of the resolution is read for motion on the resolution.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
A privileged resolution recognizing and celebrating the life and extraordinary contributions of peace activist Dr. Kim Fu Van Thai.
The next one. That will be on today's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution voicing City Council's strong interest and enthusiastic support of proposals to purchase the Philadelphia Energy Solutions refinery site that align with the City of Philadelphia's goals to improve air quality, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and protect the health, safety, and welfare of Philadelphia residents.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I introduced the resolution on the future of the oil refinery with a rules suspension because, quite frankly, we are at a critical juncture for the future of our city. It is important to acknowledge and say thank you to Council Members Johnson and Councilwoman Janie Blackwell, whose districts surround the refinery. Tomorrow, Friday, November 22nd, is the deadline established by the Philadelphia Energy Solutions for proposals on the future of the former refinery site. And we know that the history there is not favorable, and that we understand that there have been decades where PES has not been a good actor, but the good news is that their future is none. As everyone in this body knows, the future of that site continues to have the attention of thousands of Philadelphians, women, children, and families, with implications for the environment, the health of the fence-like communities surrounding that facility, for businesses, and for the labor force. My staff and I have come to the conclusion that now is the time for council to register its voice. For the last 20 years, we have seen several administrations and dozens of council members work on bills, charter changes, programs, funding sources, and all the rest to protect our environment for the health and welfare of those whom elect us. The resolution does not encourage one proposal over another. I repeat, this resolution does not encourage one proposal over another. It simply voices our strong interest in proposals that consider the long history of actions taken by this body and the goals of the current administration to protect the health and well-being of our citizens. We need to consider things like smog, air quality, the quality of the soil, the high rates of asthma and cancer rates in that community. And for that reason and others, Mr. President, I urge for its adoption.
Thank you.
I would ask that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit consideration of this resolution on today's final passage calendar.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Motion carries. That will be on our first reading calendar today. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Blackwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today I introduce one bill on your behalf, 3 on my own behalf, 4 resolutions, 2 of which are signed by everyone present today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
An ordinance authorizing the issuance from time to time of one or more series of general obligation bonds to provide funds to refund certain outstanding general obligation bonds of the City of Philadelphia. And an ordinance authorizing Enrica Patel, owner and operator of the newsstand located on the northeast corner of 30th Street and Market Street, to construct, use, and maintain conduits in, under, and across the northwest corner of 30th Street and Market Street. And an ordinance officially naming and designating the Cobbs Creek Community Environmental Education Center located at 700 Cobbs Creek Parkway in the City of Philadelphia as Carol Williams Green Community Environmental Education Center. And an ordinance authorizing Neil and Linda Pacmina, owners and operators of the food truck Linda's Cart, located at the northeast corner of 43rd Street and Woodland Avenue, to construct, use, and maintain conduits in, under, and across the northeast corner of 43rd Street and Woodland Avenue.
Those 4 bills will be referred to the appropriate committee.
And a non-privileged resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to dispose of certain properties located in the 3rd Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 3848 Mellon Street in the 3rd Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution also naming the unit block of Edgewood Street as Destiny Smallwood Car Way.
Next week's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution also naming the 4600 block of Locust Street, Livingston Way.
Also next week's calendar. Chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your behalf, I offer 2 resolutions.
Thank you, Councilman.
A privilege resolution authorizing the Committee on Housing, Neighborhood Development, and the Homeless to hold public hearings to explore the best ways to preserve the physical, cultural, and social integrity of the Strawberry Mansion neighborhood, including but not limited to the possible creation of a Strawberry Mansion Preservation District that would contain guidelines regarding future development.
Today's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution also naming the 1600 block of North 25th Street from Cecil B. Moore Avenue to West Oxford Street as Reverend Robert J. Lovett Sr. Way.
Next week's calendar. Chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
I have no bills or resolutions today, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
Mr. President, 1 non-privileged resolution today.
Thank you, Councilman.
A non-privileged resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of 2760 North Ringgold Street, located in the 4th Councilmanic District.
That will be on next week's calendar. And Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Thank you, Council President. I have 5 bills, 1 on your behalf, Council President.
Thank you, Councilman. Oh, I'm sorry. Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Excuse me, Council President. I also have 1 non-privileged resolution.
Thank you, Councilman.
You're welcome.
An ordinance amending Section 9205 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Sidewalk Sales by providing an exception to the vending prohibition encompassing the vicinity of the intersection of Lindbergh Boulevard and 84th Street. And an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the city to convey to the Philadelphia Authority for Industrial Development all or a portion of a parcel of land located at 2401 Chestnut Street for further conveyance. And an ordinance authorizing Charles Peruto, doing business as Peruto Development, to construct on and maintain a proposed exterior stairway at 1640 through 42 Fitzwater Street. And an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to enter into an amendment to a lease agreement with St. Agnes MOB for use by the city of all or a portion of the premises located at 1930 South Broad Street. And an ordinance amending Section 191301.1 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Homestead Exclusion to increase the amount of the homestead exclusion.
Those 5 bills will be referred to the appropriate committee.
And a non-privileged resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to dispose of certain properties located in the 2nd Councilmanic District.
And that will be on next week's calendar. The Chair recognizes Councilwoman Sanchez.
Thank you, Council President. I have 2 non-privileged resolutions.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
A non-privileged resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to enter into a lease agreement with Hayes for use by Hayes of certain properties located in the 7th Councilmanic District.
Next week's calendar.
And a non-privileged resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Land Bank to dispose of certain properties located in the 7th Councilmanic District.
Also next week's calendar. The Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have no bills or resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Dodd.
Thank you, Council President. I have no bills or resolutions today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Gibb.
I have no bills or resolutions today.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Taubenberger.
Thank you, Council President. I have one privileged resolution, and I'd like to speak after the title is read.
Thank you, Councilman.
A privilege resolution celebrating the 127th years of Thanksgiving football games between the Northeast High School Vikings and the Central High School Lancers, the longest-running football rivalry between public high schools in the country.
Chair recognizes Councilman Taubenberger.
Thank you, Council President. This game is meaningful for a lot of reasons to a lot of people, but specifically to me, I'm a graduate of Northeast High, graduating in 1971, class of 130, and I'm very, very proud of that. But also this body has a few, or at least some other Central grads. I think one of them is Councilman David O. So we're going to see how that game progresses. But the game itself has done so much for young people in the city of Philadelphia. This year also, I've only, since 1968, only missed one game. So that'll be my 50th game this year. Out of 127 played, I think that's a pretty good record. And Northeast has been doing pretty well. They hold the edge at 61-52, but that game is, you never know how it turns out. It's a great thing for Philadelphia. But once again, it is the oldest game in the nation between two rival schools. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Councilman. That will be on today's calendar. Chair recognizes Councilman SQUILLA.
Thank you, Mr. President. No bills or resolutions.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I offer one privilege resolution and one bill on your behalf. And I'd like to be heard after the title of the bill is read.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
An ordinance amending Chapter 19-1300 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Real Estate Taxes by modifying the duration and/or amount of certain tax abatements and by providing for periodic evaluation of the abatements authorized by Sections 191303 subparagraph 2, 191303 subparagraph 3, and 1903 subparagraph 4.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. This day and this bill is long overdue. This bill will address the 10-year tax abatement and the inequities which have existed in the city of Philadelphia for almost 20 years now. There was a time when the 10-year tax abatement was desperately needed. The city was not growing, people were not coming, things were not happening. When you fast forward to today, and while we still have significant challenges ahead, this tool clearly needs modification now. It did its job, and now it's time to retool and look at what we can do differently. The changes needed will bring much needed dollars to the Philadelphia School District, which is very important and desperately needed as well, and it will begin to address the economic inequity that exists in our city. And so on your behalf, I would like to thank all members for their co-sponsorship of this groundbreaking piece of legislation. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Bill will be referred to committee.
And a non-privileged resolution renaming the 6600 block of Germantown Avenue J. Wyatt Montezire Way.
And that will be on next week's calendar. Yes. I'm sorry. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Kim.
Thank you very much, Council President. I also wanted to just put in a few additional points and thank this council body
on the
tax abatement bill. Yes, correct. And just want to thank this body and especially yourself for the leadership to bring this group to consensus. I also want to acknowledge the work of Councilman Wilson Good Jr., who introduced many of the bills that had been formerly introduced before, including exploring caps, exploring the phase-in, protecting the school district of Philadelphia from the tax abatement. All of those really started with a lot of the leadership of council members before us who have been long grappling with this. But most importantly, as my council colleague said today, this is a body that's been really thinking about it. It's for a while. You know, I certainly introduced the bill to do the phase-in, a cap, to explore the geographic boundaries of it, and it's so encouraging to be, I'm proud to be part of a body that is taking a bold step forward on evolving tax subsidies as tools. They are not meant to be fixed in time forever. They have to evolve as our city's economic needs evolve. evolve. And for anybody who saw Good Morning America and the interview with the School District of Philadelphia teacher who now has mesothelioma, which is unheard of as an educator, we know that this money needs to go towards supporting our school facilities, and it needs to go towards affordable housing on the city end. This is only a start. There needs to be more that has to be done, which we will certainly take up with a robust new council in January. But I'm really incredibly proud to be part of a body that is showing so much leadership on this, and I want to thank you as council president for making that possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Down.
Thank you, Council President. I just want to say that we all did put in some bills here, but it was through your leadership that this happened. So I want to thank you for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councilman. I get paid the most out of council, so I guess I have that responsibility of providing leadership. But and I know I'm not supposed to talk up here, but folks, in all seriousness, I just want to thank the collaborative effort of everybody working together. There will never be a perfect bill, but the simple reality is that people understood and they've heard the people in terms of making an equitable situation, and the fact that money will potentially flow to both school district and the citizens and providing tax relief is very, very important. So I want to thank all of you all particularly over the last several weeks in pulling together and working on this very important issue. I apologize for talking because I'm not supposed to talk up here, but every now and then I break the rules. Chair recognizes Councilman Jones.
So it's on rare occasions like this that there is a win-win-win scenario, and I'm thankful for your leadership in trying to work with all of us, varying interests, to come to that common denominator. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilman. Chair recognizes Councilman Taubenberger.
Council President, thank you very much. And you didn't do anything that wasn't right. And the fact of the matter is that collaborative effort came about because of your leadership. And I think we all thank you very, very, very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Thanks, sir. Okay. Councilman O, I lost my place. Councilman O.
Offer no bills or resolutions.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Councilman. That concludes our introduction of bills and resolutions. And our next order of business is reports from committee. And the chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee for a report from the Committee on Rules.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Committee on Rules reports 10 bills with a favorable recommendation. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Decker, please read that report.
The Committee on Rules, to which is referred Bill Number 190451, entitled An Ordinance to Amend the Philadelphia Zoning Maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Washington Avenue, 25th Street, Kimball Street, and 24th Street. And Bill Number 190638, entitled An Ordinance to Amend the Philadelphia Zoning Maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Cedar Avenue, 52nd Street, Locust Street, and 46th Street. And Bill Number 190718, entitled An Ordinance to Amend the Philadelphia Zoning Maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Upsall Street, Ardley Street, Washington Lane, the SEPTA Chestnut Hill East Railroad Right-of-Way, Chew Avenue, Washington Lane, and Morton Street. And Bill Number 190762, entitled An Ordinance to Amend the Philadelphia Zoning Maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by 38th Street, Sansom Street, 39th Street, and Chestnut Street. And Bill Number 190763, entitled An Ordinance to Amend the Philadelphia Zoning Maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by 38th Street, Chestnut Street, 39th Street, and Ludlow Street. And Bill Number 190766, entitled An Ordinance to Amend the Philadelphia Zoning Maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Market Street, 22nd Street, Ludlow Street, 24th Street, Chestnut Street, and the Schuylkill River. And Bill Number 190784, entitled An Ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Zoning and Planning, to provide for a height allowance for certain solar collectors. And Bill Number 190811, entitled An Ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Zoning and Planning, to revise certain provisions of Section 14507, entitled CDO, Central Delaware Riverfront Overlay District, to revise certain provisions of subsection 14702, entitled Floor Area Height and Housing Unit Density Bonuses. And Bill Number 190825, entitled An Ordinance to amend the Philadelphia zoning maps by changing the zoning designations of certain areas of land located within an area bounded by Sloan Street, Bering Street, State Street, and Powelton Avenue. And Bill number 190830, entitled an ordinance amending Title 14 of the Philadelphia Code to revise certain provisions of Section 14500 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Overlay Zoning Districts by modifying the CTR Center City Overlay District, Society Hill area to create additional standards concerning height, parking, signs, and special reviews, and making related changes. Respectfully reports it as considered the same and returns the attached bills to council with a favorable recommendation.
Chair now recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of the 10 bills that we just read into the record by Mr. Decker.
It has been moved and properly seconded that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit the first reading of this day of the bills that were just read into the record by the chief clerk. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. These bills will be placed on our first reading calendar for today. The chair will now recognize Councilman Greenlee on a report from the Committee of Public Property and Public Works.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Committee on Public Property and Public Works reports out 6 bills with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, would you please read the report?
The Committee on Public Property and Public Works, to which is referred Bill number 190554, entitled an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property on behalf of the city to acquire fee simple title or a lesser interest by purchase, dedication, donation, condemnation, agreement in lieu of condemnation, or otherwise in parcels of land generally bounded by South Street, the bulkhead line of the Schuylkill River, and Grace Ferry Avenue for public recreational purposes. And Bill number 190710, entitled an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to enter into a lease agreement with 2401 Walnut Limited Partnership for use by the city of all or a portion of the premises located at 2401 Walnut Street. And Bill number 190742, entitled an ordinance officially naming and designating the Cobbs Creek Recreation Center located at 280 Cobbs Creek Parkway in the city of Philadelphia as Johnny Sample Recreation Center. And Bill number 190744, entitled an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property and the Commissioner of Parks and Recreation to acquire from the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority fee simple title or a lesser interest in real estate to all or a portion of a parcel of land located in and about the area bounded by Montrose Street, Carpenter Street, South 17th Street, South 18th Street, with any improvements thereon. And Bill number 190827, entitled an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to convey to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority all or a portion of a parcel or parcels of land in and about the area bounded by West Thompson Street, North Oriana Street, West Girard Avenue, and North 4th Street for further conveyance. And Bill number 190862, entitled an ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to enter into a lease agreement with Mount Airy Bethesda Manor, CDC, for use by the city of all or a portion of the premises located at 7800 Ogons Avenue. Respectfully reports it has considered the same and returns the attached bills to council with a favorable recommendation.
Chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of the 6 bills that we just read into the record by Mr. Decker.
It has been moved and properly seconded that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit the first reading of this day bills that were just read into the record by the chief clerk. All those in favor will signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. These bills will be placed on our first reading for today's calendar. Chair now recognizes Councilwoman Bass for a report of the Committee of Public Health and Human Services.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Committee on Public Health and Human Services recommends 3 bills with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Mr. Decker, would you please read the title or read the report, please?
The Committee on Public Health and Human Services, to which is referred Bill number 190715, entitled an ordinance amending Title 6 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Health Code by creating a new chapter 61200 entitled Prescription Data Collection to provide for submission of certain prescription data to the Department of Public Health solely for the purpose of administration and maintenance of the public health. And Bill number 190788, entitled an ordinance amending Title 6 of the Philadelphia Code, the Health Code, to add a section establishing requirements for hospitals that anticipate closing. And Bill number 190804, entitled an ordinance amending Chapter 9600 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Service and Other Businesses, to add a new Section 9638 entitled Sale of Electronic Smoking Devices in Youth Accessible Establishments, prohibiting selling and offering for sale certain electronic smoking devices in youth accessible establishments, and fixing penalties. Respectfully reports it has considered the same and returns the attached bills to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading on this day of bills number 190715, 190788, and 190804.
It has been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit the first reading of this day, bill numbers 190715, 190788, 190808. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it, and these bills will be placed on our first reading calendar for today. The chair now recognizes Councilman Dom for a report of the Committee of Housing, Neighborhood Development, and the Homeless.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Committee on Housing, Neighborhood Development, and the Homeless reports one bill with a favorable recommendation.
Mr. Decker, would you please read the report?
The Committee on Housing, Neighborhood Development, and the Homeless, to which is referred Bill Number 190860, entitled An Ordinance Amending Title VII of the Philadelphia Code, entitled Housing Code, by adding a new Chapter 7200 entitled Preservation of Affordable Housing. Respectfully reports it as considered and amended the same, and returns the attached bill to council with a favorable recommendation.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Councilman Dom.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit first reading this day of bill number 190860.
It has been moved and properly second that the rules of council be suspended so as to permit the first reading of this day, bill number 190860. All those in favor will signify by saying aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. This will be placed on our first reading calendar for today. The next order of business will be the consideration of the calendar. I note that the bills just read from the committee with the suspension of the rules have been deemed to have had first reading for today. These bills will be placed on the second reading and final passage calendars at our next session of council. As there are no other additional bills for the first reading calendar today, the chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee for the purpose of the calendar for calling up the resolutions and bills on the second reading and final calendars today. Chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The following resolutions and bills are being called up from the second reading and final passage calendars today. Numbers 190920, 190921, 190636A, 190802A, 180969A, 190749A, 190600, 190854, 190855, 190856, 190857, 190637, and 190765. All other bills and resolutions are being held.
Thank you, Councilman. Before considering the resolutions and bills, we will now consider public comment, and the public comment is follows. It must be concerning the matter on the second reading and final passage calendars for today, and it must be actionable in today's council session. All speakers are to sign up in order to testify. If you have not signed up already in today's session, please do so to my left, your right at the Sergeant at Arms table. You will be called in an order in which your name appears in the sign-up sheet. You will have 3 minutes to speak. In order to be fair, we're asking you to keep that in consideration because of duplicate issues that you would want to be speaking on. You will begin speaking. You'll see a green light in the podium. You will have 30 seconds remaining to your time. The light will turn yellow, in which is a reminder to conclude your remarks. Once your 3 minutes have passed, a red light will turn, and the Sergeant at Arms have the options of disconnecting the microphone at that point if necessary. Please respect the rules of City Council, and we do have the right for duplicate comments on the same matter to limit it, which isn't necessary at this point, but if we choose to exercise, we have that ability to do so as per council rules. And I would ask the chief clerk, please, to read the name of our first speaker.
Shira Goodman. Shira Goodman. Shamar Pitts.
Start now.
morning, citizens of our great city and esteemed members of City Council. My name is Shamar Pitts, and I'm from Philly Thrive. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to be heard. We are at a very critical time right now as we speak. This is a pivotal junction in our existence as human beings. We have met a circumstance where we are forced to make a choice. We have been blessed with the information letting us know without a shadow of doubt to the rational-minded person that our existence is at stake. We've been advised by the scientific community with undeniable proofs and evidences that we have to make monumental changes in the ways we produce and use energy. Global warming and climate change are wreaking havoc on our whole planet. We have to change the outdated, antiquated, and some cases murderous energy and power industry practices and fossil fuels that cause global warming has got to go. There is no easy way out. We have been warned, so we cannot afford another minute of inaction. The oil and gas industry have made huge fortunes in their developing energy, which makes it hard to change. It becomes so convenient to them to make these huge amounts of money to the point where they have become wicked and villainous in their practices. The desires to amass wealth has caused them to turn a blind eye to the ill effects of greenhouse gases and global warming. They have shown they will go to the greatest length unimaginable to preserve the way they do business no matter what. They don't care about the destruction of the planet. This is where we step in and save the day. We have the opportunity right now in our city to effect change that will benefit the human race on a global scale. If we act right now. We have to get it right today. I come before my city council humbly asking on behalf of the citizens of the community, can you please lead the way into the future of developing good, clean, renewable energy. We were in a city council hearing right here in this room, and we had the experts come and give us an analysis on what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. We need city council to put the teeth back in that resolution that was submitted and go forward in bringing forth and protecting the citizens from the harmful effects of companies like the PES oil refinery and keeping it closed and stopping it from ever being an oil refinery again. Thank you. My time is almost up, so I won't be able to finish, but we really do come to City Council humbly asking, please hear our pleas and save us from all the sicknesses and all the lives that's been lost and all the things that we lost by this terrible, catastrophic environmental disaster. Thank you for hearing me.
Thank you, Mr. Decker. Our next speaker, please. Mr. Decker, our next speaker, please.
Cameron Powell.
Can I take this off? I'm Cameron Powell, also a member of Philly Thrive. First, I'd like to say good afternoon to everyone and thank you to everyone that came out to show support. On June 21st of this year, the former PES refinery was decimated by a cataclysmic explosion caused by the ignition of hydrofluoric acid, which was leaked from one faulty pipe. But moreover, this was caused by pure negligence on behalf of the former owners of the refinery and the city of Philadelphia. This is years of negligence. That pipe was there for over 40 years. The city of Philadelphia has failed to adhere and to hold these companies accountable to a certain standard for the safety and health of their citizens. Now, I can't speak for City Council when I say that we don't want anything like this to ever happen again. But they can't speak for us. So, because of this, we propose this resolution so that City Council can finally definitively say that their views are in line with ours, which is the advancement of the health and safety of this city's citizens. Unfortunately, the document being voted on today isn't the original that we proposed. It's a watered-down version allowing the local government to remain lofty on this issue. We figured that the fact that over 1 million lives could have been lost that night would propel you all to start, quote, opposing bidders that hurt public health and safety and don't align with sustainability goals. But apparently, you only wish to encourage bidders who promote or who protect health and safety and align with sustainability goals. You must understand that simply stating and showing favor for things that you're in line with without actively vocalizing opposition to those that you are not is insufficient for change. There are a number of demands that were redacted from the document that I can't get into right now, but Philly thrives in a better future, a future where all Philadelphians have the right to breathe. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, our next speaker, please.
Matt Walker.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Matt Walker, and I'm the Advocacy Director with Clean Air Council. We're a nonprofit organization headquartered in Philadelphia. The Council has been working to protect everyone's right to breathe clean air for over 50 years, and Clean Air Council has over 37,000 members, including many in Philadelphia. I'm speaking on Resolution 190636-A. With Philadelphia Energy Solutions' closure of the refinery this summer, a number of organizations and institutions have called on the City of Philadelphia to promote a future use of the roughly 1,300 acres of refinery land that is protective of public health and the environment and promotes economic development. With the very recent news about the impending deadline for bidders to submit qualifying proposals to purchase the PES refinery site tomorrow, November 22nd, it is absolutely critical that City Council make a public statement about its preference for the site's future use. Clean Air Council fully supports Councilwoman Reynolds Brown's resolution in support of proposals for the site that align with the City of Philadelphia's goals to improve air quality, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and protect public health and safety of Philadelphia residents. Clean Air Council strongly recommends that each City Council member vote to approve this resolution. We appreciate Councilwoman Reynolds Brown's leadership and that of the co-sponsoring council members. Thank you. Over the refinery's century and a half of storing and processing crude oil and petroleum products, it has heavily contaminated the soil and polluted the surrounding rivers and underlying aquifer. The refinery was the largest stationary source of toxic air pollution in Philadelphia. The permanent closure of the PES refinery would represent a major improvement to air quality, public health, and quality of life in Philadelphia, and would remove the city's single largest industrial contributor of greenhouse gases. This moment presents the greatest opportunity in Philadelphia's modern history to reimagine a future use for such a large amount of land at one time, roughly 1,300 acres, with a lot of waterfront property. I urge City Council to approve this resolution and then make it a reality by enacting new policies that would ensure that this land can only be used for purposes that align with the city's sustainability goals and that fully protect public health and safety. Specifically, the Council asks City Council to consider an ordinance to prohibit the storage and use of unsafe levels of hydrofluoric acid, a deadly chemical, and to explore options for changing the zoning district in the area of the refinery site so that it reflects the City of Philadelphia's plans and goals. This resolution will make a powerful statement to potential bidders interested in the refinery site that City Council strongly prefers future uses at this site that do not pollute the air or water and do not negatively affect the health and safety of Philadelphia residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Decker, our next speaker, please.
Nikhil Sable.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nikhil Saval. I'm the Democratic leader of the 2nd Ward and a co-founder and member of Reclaim Philadelphia. I'm glad to have the opportunity to speak. I'm grateful to this body for making the time available to me. I don't need to remind the members, they've been reminded already about the near tragedy that took place the early morning of June 21st when an outdated corroded pipe at the Philadelphia Energy Solutions oil refinery led to an explosion that released 3,000 pounds of hydrofluoric acid into the air and hurled 3 vessels weighing thousands of pounds around the site and across the Schuylkill River. Nor do I need to remind people that we are lucky it was not worse. We are lucky and grateful that skilled workers managed to prevent the explosion from being significantly worse, a death-bringing tragedy on a scale that we might not be fully able to imagine. It is perhaps worth reminding this body, however, that while many people suffered from the refinery and the explosion, the residents of Grays Ferry enduring toxicity and pollution for decades, and the 1,000 laid-off workers who gave their bodies to the work and gave back to the neighborhood around them, it is worth reminding this council that some people did benefit. The executives of Philadelphia Energy Solutions, before declaring bankruptcy, took $4.5 million in bonuses, like bandits. It is also perhaps worth reminding the members of this body that Philadelphia Energy Solutions was the recipient of $5 million in redevelopment assistance capital program or RACP grants. It is worth reminding the members of this body that it is as if the state gave bonuses to the executives, and that the sustenance politicians give to Philadelphia Energy Solutions was to the people at its very top who daily exacted their revenge on the rest of us below them. Fossil fuel executives are among the greatest criminals this society has ever known. There is nothing they will not pollute, nor ground or water they will not contaminate, no abomination on the land or body they are shy of committing. Who will you support? The oil bosses, their outside investors, and their insatiable greed, or the workers and people of the city and their desire for clean air, drinkable water, and work that does not kill you? It is time for members of this body and the people of this city to pick sides. This is why I'm speaking in support of Resolution 190636-8. Thank you.
Mr. Decker, our next speaker, please.
Terry Bergen. Terry Bergen. Dr. Bethany Wiggin. Minal Ravel.
Hello, my name's Minal Ravel, a Mount Airy resident and a volunteer with the Sierra Club. I'm here today to speak about Council's just introduced resolution to support proposals to purchase the refinery site that align with our goals. The fire this past June woke up all Philadelphians to the toxic giant at our riverfront, What happens here affects all Philadelphians, especially the near neighbors in South Philly, who inhale the emissions from this refinery and are paying for it with their health and their lives. At this late stage of planetary climate fever, this site must not become an oil refinery again. Yes, today we need their product to fill our gas tanks, but with electrified and improved transit and electric cars, we won't be as reliant on the products of this refinery. I repeat, we must not revive the refinery again. We must not accept any industry that dumps into the atmosphere or produces anything combustible. Therefore, no waste-to-energy plant, nothing that makes jet fuel or marine diesel. We ask simply for no new fossil fuel projects. Our commitment to 100% renewable energy means we go forward towards that, not backwards into the 20th century. What can the city do? Any tax incentives we may have had for this site, such as Keystone Opportunity Zones, must be removed. We may need to rezone this space and take away this zoning so that this site is less viable for use as a future refinery. We need to make it financially unattractive for anyone to restart this refinery. Tomorrow, I plan to talk more about creating family-sustaining jobs, remediation for a use other than a refinery, and consideration of rising sea levels. Today, my question to you all is, who decides what happens next? We'd like to participate.
Mr. Decker, our next speaker, please.
Peter Winslow.
Thank you, Councilman Heenan and members of the council. My name is Peter Winslow. I'm a resident of Mount Airy, and I'm president of a Smart Collaboration, ASK. I'm here wearing my Philly Thrive t-shirt and speaking and urging you to support and pass this resolution that's been introduced by Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. And Councilwoman Reynolds Brown said that this is a neutral, not favoring one, a neutral proposal, not favoring one bidder over another. And aside from the two bidders who expressed their interest publicly before going into the bidding process, we don't know who the bidders are. So we're not in a position to say who we're for, but we sure can say who we're against. We're against the refinery reopening, plain and simple. You know, when the refinery blew itself up, there were some people who came to us and said to me, said to you, that, oh my goodness, this is the oldest and largest refinery on the East Coast. We're going to see a spike in gas prices. We're going to see shortages of fuel. And did it happen? No. And the reason it didn't happen is because although the Philadelphia refinery accounts for 29% of the capacity in Pad 1, it's only about 2% of the national capacity. And the output of the refinery of 335,000 barrels per day is a fraction of the surplus capacity that exists in the system. So from a consumer perspective, we don't need the refinery. From the perspective of the city, as Councilman Bass and Gim, who's not here anymore, but as Councilman Bass said earlier, in regard to tax abatements, PES has received a free ride. The total amount of taxes that have been assumed that the city receives from PES is $33.2 million, and it consists of sales taxes, and it's a minor amount in the greater scheme of things in terms of the total budget of the city, and compared to the amount of money that is made by this refinery and flows through it. So, you know, the city doesn't need it. It doesn't need it for tax revenue. So I would urge you to not to use this as a starting point and to pass further ordinances and legislation that restrict the use of the refinery or anything like it in terms of requiring that there be provisions for hazardous materials like hydrofluoric acid and other similar hazards to the community, that there be an executable procedure for actually sheltering in place and evacuating in the case of an emergency, which doesn't exist now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe Danahill. Commenting on 1804009, 1906337, 190921, and 1907765.
This is an official decree of the people, and writ mandamus quo warranto, as such requires immediate action and remedy. Every week, council, mayor, governor, and others transfer private property to government, probably unlawfully. To paraphrase George Washington, a government that tries to deny God-given rights must be removed. Founding fathers required officials be oath-bound, documented consent of the people or God is required before action is taken. I quote, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their powers from the consent of the governed. And I quote, it is the right of the people to abolish it and install new government. Where is the documented consent to steal my home, steal my just compensation without prosecution? The constitutions require immediate remedy of this breach of law, breach of close, breach of fiduciary duty. Your oath of office requires you to act or face prison. 42 U.S.C. 1982, 1983, 1985, 1986, 1987. 18 U.S.C. 241, 242, 2381, 2384. PA Constitution, Article 1, Sections 1 through 28. 26 PA CSA, 703, 705, 708, 709, 711, 712, 713, 716, 902, and other laws listed in SCOTUS 1589-65, 141330, 144056 appear violated. I call on the federal and Commonwealth governments to perform their constitutional obligations, to investigate, prosecute all involved in the theft and illegal deed transfer of my home, 1038 West Wyoming Avenue, the denial of God-given 42 U.S.C. 1982 property rights for 25 years is egregious, extraordinary, oath-violating, and requires immediate remedy. A just government must obey the rule of law. This color of law government must have its charter to govern revoked until a constitutionally compliant government is installed. Public servants cannot refuse their sworn duty to act any more than a fireman can refuse to fight a fire. The sovereign people require oath, constitutions, and law be enforced, and jail is required for all who violate oath, constitution, or law. I remind council, it takes a lot of cooperation to create and allow all of this monumental corruption.
Thank you for your testimony.
Lynn Robinson. Commenting on 190636A.
Good afternoon.
Thank you, council people. My name is Lynn Robinson. I'm a Philadelphia resident for over 42 years and director of Neighbors Against the Gas Plants. NAGP stands in solidarity with the community living close to the refinery whose health has been sacrificed as collateral damage. The loss of vibrant health and premature deaths of loved ones is way beyond an inconvenience. When over 5,000 pounds of hydrofluoric acid was released during the explosion, a miracle protected thousands of lives. It's a miracle of resilience that enables residents to stand and fight for the rest, to achieve enforcement of the constitutional right to breathe clean air. Quote, the people have a right to clean air, pure water, and to the preservation of the natural, scenic, historic, and aesthetic values of the environment. Article 1, Section 27 in the Pennsylvania Constitution is not reserved for only those wealthy enough to live in certain zip codes. Because the future use of the refinery site is acutely important to the health and welfare of this city, from infants to the elderly, the resolution should be passed and translate into action. Our governor right now is being investigated by the FBI, the Attorney General of Pennsylvania, and the district attorneys of Delaware and Chester counties as to whether he pressured the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection to approve Sunoco's Mariner East 2 pipeline project. Wolf is a Democrat. Meanwhile, Republican President Trump wants to drill, 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 and burn down anything vulnerable and sacred. Both politicians are guilty of the same ignorant bravado, ignoring common sense, thinking it's good to be macho, tougher than the surroundings, to survive on smoke and toxic water as long as there's a deal to be made. Which is more convenient for Philadelphia at this point? Continue poisoning people with contaminated air, water, soil, and toxic school buildings while burning fossil fuels that push the climate towards no return in 2030? Or reject entrenched habits created by the fossil fuel industry? We can start with cleaning up the refinery area and getting on a fast-track transition to clean energy. Today, you can pass the resolution. What is your position, legislators of the city? Can you see outside the machine that you are in? If you can, you will pass this resolution.
Thank you for your testimony.
Lisa Hastings. Commenting on 190636A.
Good afternoon.
Hi, my name is Lisa Hastings. I'm a resident of Philadelphia. I'm here to speak in support of Blondell's resolution, and I hope that everyone on City Council who is concerned about the future of the city in any way should support this and take action to make keeping the refinery closure permanent. If possible, pass an emergency zoning change for the site that would go into effect upon change of ownership as a non-fossil fuel industrial / climate mitigation area. That would take care of a lot of the problems. It would also allow a lot of flexibility by protecting people and in the city, and still allow some industrial activity. You could also recommend that the city place itself as a buyer of this site, or use eminent domain to take it over, and it's justified as removing a major public hazard. If it's used as an oil refinery again, or sometimes as another large polluting facilities, particularly fossil fuel, it will still have the capacity to kill us all. Making the refinery history would allow this city and all of its residents to benefit from eliminating a huge public safety hazard that is hanging like a cloud over all of us, eliminate toxic air pollution that contributes to Philadelphia's unusually high cancer rate, and finally, we could stop violating the ozone national ambient air quality standard, which the city has not done. We continually violate it, and it probably won't happen if the refinery reopens. It's the largest stationary source of ozone precursors in the county and one of the largest in the non-attainment area. It would also open up a huge amount of land that can be used productively for renewable energy industries, other industries, and climate mitigation. Simply eliminating it, saying we're getting rid of this fossil fuel, would be priceless for the city's national and international reputation, and will help attract residents, tourists, and future businesses. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Before we go to our next witness, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Ria Sanchez.
Thank you, Council President. I want to be recorded as voting aye on all bills and resolutions and ask that I be excused.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Leave shall be granted.
David Steinberg, commenting on 190-636A.
Good afternoon. My name is David Steinberg. I was born and raised in Philadelphia. I'm currently a resident in New Jersey. So what am I doing here? I'm part of a group called the Philadelphia Eco District, and I'd like to present a different future, something that you have not heard before. The Philadelphia Eco District realizes the refinery closing gives a golden opportunity for large-scale development within the city itself. We created a draft which we submitted, which we released as a public release back in August, and I'd like to get into some of the specifics of what can be for this site. The effort to develop the refinery site ought to match or exceed the scope of other visionary development projects in Philadelphia, such as the development of the Navy Yard or Drexel Schoolyard's development. If we boldly reimagine the city, it will positively influence the quality of life for many generations into the future, just as the decision made by our ancestors, including William Penn and his visionary green country town, affect us today. The following 5 planning categories represents our framework for developing the refinery site. They are a snapshot of our ongoing effort to imagine this ambitious project undertaking. The boundaries between these categories are dynamic, and things can be reasonably shifted around and changed. First one, aspirational values so people can live, work, and play there. Create mixed-use residential, retail, recreational, industrial, cultural, and educational uses. Public transportation with a convenient access for all residents. Bike and pedestrian trails. Extend the Fairmount Park into the site. A good way to help remediating. Number 2, remediation. Repairing the environmental damage that's already done. Using bioremediation barges, solar aquatics, sponge parks to remediate polluted land and water, soil and air cleanup suitable for residential use. Number 3, restorative, to bring back the land for eco-humanistic use. Understanding the historical nature of the site that once was part of the Indian heritage, we can reuse the oil tanks for cleaning water and processing waste from the development and making drinking water aquifer, which serves New Jersey, which is under the refinery. Number 4, regenerative, creating an environment that gives back more than it takes. So create a hybrid ecology for the restoration of wetlands, climate change planning for mitigating rising waters. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony.
George Gould, commenting on 190-106.
Thank you. I am here today as a representative of the Philadelphians Against Bedbugs, FAB, who have worked on a bedbug remediation bill for 4 years, which require landlords to be financially responsible for and remediate bedbug infestation. As City Council in 2014 passed a resolution saying that bedbugs were a serious issue, and out of that a task force was created, including landlords, pest control operators, advocates for bedbug treatment. The task force recommended, in fact, that landlords be financially responsible and remediate bedbugs. We have worked on creating a bill in a process of 4 years. When we came to council for the committee hearing, however, we learned that the sponsored and introduced an amendment which we believe effectively gutted the bill. The amendment, which now requires the tenant to share the cost of bedbug remediation if the tenant didn't report the infestation within 90 days of moving in. Pest control experts state, and I quote, "It is extremely difficult to detect a bedbug infestation early on." Additionally, as it is now, tenants will not report the infestation if they have to pay for remediation. Philadelphia is the most bedbug infested city in the country. There were other amendments put in which we believe seriously undermine the bill. We now have been working with the sponsor, and we have proposed an amendment removing these harmful changes and requiring the landlord to pay the full cost of remediation. The tenant, however, would have clear obligations. They would have to cooperate with the pest control operator, and they would be responsible for all the costs of preparing the unit, including purchasing mattress and box spring encasements and other items as indicated by the licensed pest control operator. This would also include replacing items such as furniture, which the licensed PCO stated need to be done. If the tenant failed to comply, the landlord could perform the work and charge the tenant for the cost of doing it. In accordance with federal housing guidelines, every city and state that has passed a bedbug bill requires the landlord to be fully responsible for the cost of bedbug remediation. We hope that these amendments will come out, and so we can fully support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony.
There are no other speakers in the public comment list, Mr. President.
Yes. Chair recognizes Councilman Greenlee.
Thank you, Mr. President. When I was reading the bills on second reading and final passage, I neglected to mention Bill number 190801 will also be on second reading and final passage today.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Councilman. That concludes our public comment session for today. We will now move to our calendar. Mr. Decker, please call the title of 190920.
A resolution appointing Alexander Balloon to the Board of Directors of the Philadelphia Land Bank.
Chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Move for the adoption of the resolution.
Second.
Moving properly second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution 190920 is adopted. Mr. Decker, 190921.
A resolution authorizing the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority to dispose of certain properties located in the 2nd Councilmanic District, which will be transferred by the city to the Philadelphia Redevelopment Authority by conveyance of such properties to the Philadelphia Land Bank.
Chair recognizes Councilman Johnson.
Council President, I move for the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, ayes have it. 190921 has been adopted. Mr. Decker, please read the title of 190636A.
An ordinance amending Section 3207 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Sale of Fuel Oil to revise the standards for permissible grades and permissible sulfur content of commercial fuel oil.
This bill has been heard on two separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Blackwell.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilman Greenlee.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones. Aye. Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez is voting aye. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla.
Aye.
Councilman Taubenberger.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 15, the nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative. The bill passes. Mr. Decker, 190802A.
An ordinance establishing parking regulations in the vicinity of Mount Vernon Street and North 32nd Street, North 42nd Street, and Bering Street.
This bill has been heard on two separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Blackwell.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilman Greenlee.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quinones Sanchez is voting aye. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla. Aye. Councilman Taubenberger.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 15, the nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative. The bill passed. Mr. Decker, 180969A.
An ordinance amending Chapter 10, 2200 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Hate Crimes to increase the scope of eligible crimes and to provide for additional penalties for criminal conduct motivated by hatred towards certain characteristics of other persons.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Blackwell.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilman Greenlee. Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones. Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gunnarina Sanchez is voting aye. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 15, the nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative. The bill passes. Mr. Decker, 190-749A.
An ordinance establishing the safe haven law by amending Title 10 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Regulation of Individual Conduct and Activity by adding a new section prohibiting the possession of weapons at city recreation facilities.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Blackwell.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilman Greenlee.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones. Councilman O.
Aye.
Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gunnarina Sanchez is voting aye. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 14, the nays are 1. The majority of members present voting in the affirmative. The bill passes. Mr. Decker, 190-600.
An ordinance amending Chapter 93400 of the Philadelphia Code entitled Energy Conservation to add a new Section 93403 entitled Building Energy Performance Policy to require owners of certain large buildings to conduct tune-ups of the energy and water systems in such buildings.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilman Greenlee.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones.
Aye.
Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gunnarina Sanchez is voting aye. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 15, the nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative. The bill passes. Mr. Decker, 190-801.
An ordinance authorizing the University of the Sciences in Philadelphia to own and maintain existing pedestrian scale street lights at 4514 through 22 Woodland Avenue.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Blackwell.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilman Greenlee.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Gunnarina Sanchez is voting aye. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 15, the nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative. The bill passes. Mr. Decker, 190-854.
An ordinance amending Bill Number 190152, approved June 19, 2019, entitled An Ordinance to Adopt a Capital Program for the 6 fiscal years 2020 through 2025 inclusive.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Blackwell.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilman Greenlee.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson. Councilman Jones. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Gunnarina Sanchez is voting aye. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 15, the nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative. The bill passes. Mr. Decker, 190-855.
An ordinance amending Bill Number 190153, approved June 19, 2019, entitled An Ordinance to Adopt a Fiscal 2020 Capital Budget.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Blackwell.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilman Greenlee.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Gunnarina Sanchez is voting aye. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown. Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 15 and nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 190-856.
An ordinance authorizing transfers and appropriations for fiscal year 2020 from the general fund, certain oil city offices, departments, boards, and commissions, the grants revenue fund, certain oil city offices, departments, boards, and commissions, to the general fund, certain oil city offices, departments, boards, and commissions, the water fund, certain oil city offices, departments, boards, and commissions, the special gasoline tax fund, certain oil city offices, departments, boards, and commissions, and the aviation fund, certain oil city offices, departments, boards, and commissions.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Blackwell.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilman Greenlee.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Gunnarina Sanchez is voting aye. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 15 and nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 190-857.
An ordinance authorizing transfers and appropriations for fiscal year 2019 from the general fund, certain oil city offices, departments, boards, and commissions, the grants revenue fund, certain oil city offices, departments, boards, and commissions, the aviation fund, certain oil city offices, departments, boards, and commissions, and the water fund, certain oil city offices, departments, boards, and commissions, to the general fund, certain oil city offices, departments, boards, and commissions, the aviation fund, certain oil city offices, departments, boards, and commissions, and the water residual fund, certain oil city offices, departments, boards, and commissions.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Blackwell.
Aye.
Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilman Greenlee.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim.
Aye.
Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Gunnarina Sanchez is voting aye. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 15 and nays are 0. Majority of members present voting in the affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, 190-637.
An ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Public Property to acquire fee simple title or a lesser interest by purchase, dedication, donation, condemnation, agreement in lieu of condemnation or otherwise in Sarah Morris Recreation Center located at 5800 Walnut Street for public, recreational, or other purposes.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilman Greenlee.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Gunnarina Sanchez is voting aye. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
I already talked to Ivory. I'm double booked. I'll be getting into that meeting late from another meeting.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla. And Councilman Taubenberger.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes are 15 and nays are 0. The bill passes. Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Decker, 190-765.
An ordinance authorizing the Commissioner of Philadelphia Parks and Recreation to enter into a stormwater easement agreement with the School District of Philadelphia to allow for the management of stormwater discharge from the northern portion of the school district parcels located at 3201 Ryan Avenue and 3001 Ryan Avenue by way of overland flow to the adjacent Pennypack Park.
This bill has been heard on 2 separate days. The question is, shall the bill pass finally? Mr. Decker, call the roll.
Councilwoman Bass.
Aye.
Councilwoman Blackwell. Councilman Dom.
Aye.
Councilman Greenlee.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gim. Councilman Heenan.
Aye.
Councilman Johnson.
Aye.
Councilman Jones. Councilman O. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Gunnarina Sanchez is voting aye. Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Aye.
Councilman Squilla. Councilman Taubenberger.
Aye.
Council President Clark.
Aye, the ayes 15 and nays are 0. Majority of all members present voting in affirmative, the bill passes. Mr. Decker, you have any additional resolutions?
A resolution recognizing and celebrating the life and extraordinary contributions of peace activist Dr. Kim Fu Fan Thai, introduced by Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
I move for the adoption.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. The motion carries.
And a resolution voicing City Council's strong interest and enthusiastic support of proposals to purchase the Philadelphia Energy Solutions refinery site that align with the City of Philadelphia's goals to improve air quality, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and protect the health, safety, and welfare of Philadelphia residents, introduced by Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Chair again recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for the adoption.
Can I get a second? Second. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it. Resolution is adopted.
And a resolution authorizing the Committee on Housing, Neighborhood Development, and the Homeless to hold public hearings to explore the best ways to preserve the physical, cultural, and social integrity of the Strawberry Mansion neighborhood, including, but not limited to, the possible creation of a Strawberry Mansion Preservation District that would contain guidelines regarding future development. Introduced by Councilman Greenlee on behalf of Council President Clark. Introduced by Councilman Greenlee on behalf of Council President Clark.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. I move the adoption of the resolution.
It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
And a resolution celebrating the 127th years of Thanksgiving football games between the Northeast High School Vikings and the Central High School Lancers, the longest running football rivalry between public high schools in the country. Introduced by Councilman Taubenberger.
Chair recognizes Councilman Taubenberger.
I enthusiastically ask for the motion to be moved forward.
Thank you. It's been moved and properly second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, ayes have it, and that resolution is adopted.
There are no other resolutions on the final passage calendar, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Mr. Decker. Any speeches on behalf of the minority? Speeches on behalf of the majority. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown.
Mr. President, it's always a practice to lift up and celebrate professionals. So moving on to brighter, wider pastors. As a final announcement today, I would like to share that our senior policy advisor, Julian Thompson, will be leaving our office. Julian will be accepting a position at the United Negro College Fund and will be moving to Atlanta, Georgia to serve as the first senior program manager in the area of leadership. He'll be working directly with the President and CEO, Dr. Michael Lomax, and the UNCF Institute for Capacity Building, which has as its chief responsibility to provide leadership programs for presidents and board chairs of all of our historically black colleges. He's been a member of our team since May 27. He came to us as a policy fellow freshman right out of law school in 2010, where he served under my then legislative aide, Catherine Gilmore Richardson. As my senior policy advisor, he's been valued by all of the members of our team, and most importantly, our interns. Mayor Kinney just signed into law our lead bill, which Julian took up the mantle 2 years ago after us working on that 9 years ago. And so we're excited for him and his leadership more than anything else, and the true mentor he has been to the gazillion interns that have come to our office. So here's what we know. UNCF's slogan is, Julian.
Mine is a terrible thing to waste.
Thank you very much. And over the past few years, my staff and I believe that you have demonstrated an acute mental ability. You are a superior lawyer with a keen legal eye, so Atlanta's gain is Philly's loss. We want to thank you in a big way and celebrate you in a bigger way, and as Catherine Gilmore Richardson would say, we journey on. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Congratulations, Julian. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Parker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I quickly just wanted to take this opportunity to say a special thank you to Solomon Jones, Manuel Glenn, Janice Armstrong, and Malcolm Jenkins. And I'll tell you why. In an article that was written on November the 19th by Janice Armstrong, it's entitled, "A Call Went Out to Black Men in Response to Shootings of Kids. Hundreds Responded, Warming My Heart." In this article, which follows a photo of about 400 African American men, black men, who were in a room at Community College of Philadelphia, who were called to action by Solomon Jones, who is a talk show host on WURD radio, along with a columnist for the Enquirer. And he called them to action under the guise of a hashtag ManUpPHL, calling on, and I want to quote him, "I put out a call to black husbands and black fathers and black uncles, and you know what he said from the stage? Y'all showed up." Mr. President, I thank Manuel Glenn for actually posting the live footage so that those of us who were not there, I also saw, I think Councilman Green was there, so that we could actually see these men who Janice Armstrong beautifully captures when she says, "I was there, and believe me, it was a beautiful sight to behold. A room full of African-American men dressed in business suits or Timberland boots and jeans, and they gathered together to express their collective outrage over recent shootings involving children." As Councilman Johnson, Councilman Jones, and yourself, Mr. President, have taken up this mantle for criminal justice reform in this body, I know that as an African-American woman, we've often had conversations about the desire to see more African American men engaged in activities that will help our young people and to reduce violence, which is why I want to commend Malcolm Jenkins. And I put him there because we've often said we wished more black African American athletes, more black African American entertainers who have achieved some sort of celebrity and or wealth would put some skin in the game and use their platform to motivate and inspire our young people, our communities at large, to get engaged in issues that will help to improve the quality of life for all. I want to say to Malcolm Jenkins, if you're listening, I want you to keep on keeping on. I don't care if we agree to disagree with what his perspective is on any particular issue. He, like any other resident of our nation, of this state, of this city, who has some skin in the game, has a right to have a voice. So to Solomon Jones and to Janice for capturing it, to Malcolm Jenkins, thank you so very much for putting skin in the game. You are no Johnny-come-lately to tough issues that people have long not wanted to discuss publicly. Criminal justice reform, policing reform, prison reform. You've used your celebrity to help our people and our city at large. I want to say thank you, and don't you dare allow anyone or anything to silence you. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Chair recognizes Councilman Heenan.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I want to thank all of the co-sponsors for the hate legislation, the bill that was unanimously passed today. In particular, Councilwoman Brown, Councilman Squilla, Gim, Green, Dom, and Talkenberg, and all the colleagues who unanimously voted to make sure that this becomes a law and that nobody is disenfranchised and nobody is singled out in the form of a crime in the name of hate, which is unacceptable here in the city of Philadelphia. So I want to thank all of you who passed, to help join me passing this legislation today. And I want to give a shout out to all the seniors in my district. I got to tell you, they were passionate about this. They over 1,000 of them circulated petitions that were presented to me in whole, including my mother. So I want to thank my mother, who was encouraging and persuading that this happens, by the end of the year, because it's what we do here in the city of Philadelphia. So thank you all for that. Second, I want to thank you, Council President. I want to commend you and your staff for facilitating all the research work and the legislation that was introduced today in modifying the 10-year tax abatement. This conversation has just begun in more of an intense way, and most of you are aware that I have been a long vocal supporter for the 10-year tax abatement. I believe that the more we do to encourage development, the more we do to help spur and create job creation and put Philadelphians to work. But my district is made up of working class families, and far too many of them are living paycheck to paycheck, not just in my district, but across the city. It's become increasingly clear that while a benefit to developers might spur development, which is my belief, a benefit not necessarily extending to the working class people. In my district, and again, I'm going to say across the city, we passed legislation on workers' rights and sick pay and fair scheduling. Workers deserve the respect of a living wage, and it's that plain and simple. They deserve job sites that prioritize safety and the value of a workforce. We've seen far too many examples of residential developers who were unscrupulous in Philadelphia, who were failing workers, failing the people, failing the properties, and endangering our communities. The abatement legislation, I believe, that we are considering here presents an opportunity to talk about the actual benefits of the tax abatement and will allow us to take steps in making sure that the benefits are shared for all Philadelphians and shared for the workforce and the working class of Philadelphians. So thank you for everything that you do looking after this body and the city of Philadelphia as a whole, and your staff's contributions in a technical way.
Thank you, Councilman, and thank you for giving us an opportunity to do that. Chair recognizes Councilwoman Bass.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to echo my colleague's comments in thanking you, but I also wanted to thank him because I think it really says a lot to have Councilman Heenan be a co-sponsor on this. I think it means a lot, and I know we've had quite spirited discussion about the 10-year tax abatement for a long time now. So having his support, having all of our colleagues' support is critically important, but I did want to signal him out is because we've had so many conversations about the 10-year tax abatement and what to do and how to make it fairer and make it work for the city of Philadelphia and also address, the growth that we've had as a result of it. So I wanted to thank him as well. Also, I wanted to mention, speaking earlier of, folks who are near and dear to our hearts here in City Council who are leaving, I wanted to say a little something about our very own 18th member of Philadelphia City Council, Vince Thompson, from WURD, who is going to be leaving, but I don't think he's going all that far. But he will be leaving his broadcast at WURD, and his last broadcast will be on Thursday, November 21st, which is today. Some trivia about Vince's tenure at WURD. Vince started his latest City Council Live career as host with the first session on January 23rd, 2014. From January 23rd, 2014 until today, Council will have had 187 sessions according to WURD's accounting of its show's transcripts. Vince Thompson broadcast 184 of them, missing only 3 during that time. So that's about a 98.3% attendance rate. Vince Thompson has been a consistent, clear voice in the African-American-owned news media for many years, and we'll miss his reporting on WURD. But like I said, I think we'll still be seeing him here and there, maybe every once in a while. And so I've known Vince for a very long time, and I count him as a friend, even when he's asked me really hard, really difficult questions. Still have so much love for him, and I know that all of us do. So I'd like to just take a moment and ask if we could give Vince, our 18th member of council, just a round of applause and appreciation for all of his work over the years. Thank you, Vince.
Thank you, Councilwoman.
Thank you.
And congratulations, Ben. Chair recognizes Councilman SQUILLA.
Thank you, Mr. President. Real quick, we're supposed to have a Streets and Services hearing starting at 2, so we're going to push it back to 2:30 to give everybody a little break, and we'll start at that time.
Thank you, Councilman. That concludes our speeches on behalf of the majority and minority. And Chair recognizes Councilwoman Reynolds Brown for a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that council stand adjourned until Thursday, December 5th, 2019 at 10 a.m.
Thank you. It has been moved and probably second that council stand adjourned until Thursday, December 5th, 2019, 10 a.m. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you all very much.